Hi, greetings everyone. Thank you so much for viewing my channel. Me doing this is a really big deal. I'm actually very uncomfortable with recording myself because you open yourself up to public scrutiny. However, I have benefited from other people's YouTube channels, and so I would like to pay it forward. And I'm really excited because I have one subscriber. Yay, I have one. So, whoever you are, thank you for subscribing. I know that people will come on YouTube and they'll celebrate when they get 100,000 subscribers or 50,000 or whatever that number is. But I am celebrating the one that I have. So, thank you so much. I'm truly grateful. I'm honored, that you would deem um, me worthy of the like of enough to subscribe. So thank you. All right, so this first video is me just talking about my experience having dreads, locks, as some people will call it. A lot of people prefer to use the word locks. I like dreads. I just think it just sounds cooler. I understand it has a negative connotation, but I don't care. I don't view it as a negative. All right, so I use dreads and locks interchangeably. All right, so first of all, I'll start with why I currently don't have my hair locked anymore and why I have a buzz cut. The only reason why I have a buzz cut is because towards the end of my lock journey, which I didn't have them for very long, I was free-forming, and so I had pulled them apart so that I could see more length. And so when I pulled them apart, I then started cutting them and doing bobs and styling it and crocheting and doing all these different types of things. And I was just doing a lot of manipulating. And so I ended up weakening my hair and it just wasn't the same anymore. And so, like it was so weak to the point where I would be out in public and I would be like worried, like, oh, did I drop a dread? Did it come out? So that was just getting too much. So I should have left my hair alone and let it organically be what it was supposed to be. So if and when I do grow my hair back out, it will be free forming, period, because I really enjoy that journey. Okay, so how I stumbled upon free forming was I came out of the journey of having a relaxer. My hair had been relaxed for probably 25, 30 years. And so I was just, it's time for me to embrace really my natural hair texture. I was really doing myself a disservice culturally. And so when I had a fro, I was wearing my hair out. I noticed that my hair would be really, really dry. And so I would put all different types of oils and creams on it, and yet it would just sit on top of my hair. It was not absorbing into my actual hair. So I was like, okay, I don't know what's up with that. So then I would wash my hair, and then I would do a 2-strand twist with nothing in my hair. I noticed that when I had the 2-strand twist, that my hair would feel really soft, as though I had product in my hair. And I was like, well, that's interesting. So then I would take my hair out of the 2-strand twist, and then it would be dry again. And then I would 2-strand twist it again, and then it would seem moisturized, but yet I had nothing in my hair. So I said, maybe I'm supposed to lock my hair. Maybe, I don't know, it just works for me. So I said, okay, I'm going to lock it. But then I said, but I like to wash my hair too. Because not knowing any better, I thought that when you lock your hair that you can't wash it. Because in not washing it, that's what causes it to lock up for some reason. I don't know why I was thinking that. So I was doing my research online, and then I realized, no, you can actually wash your hair on a regular basis. In fact, you should wash it on a regular basis. And that when you go to a loctician, it's not necessarily that your hair will lock faster. It's that it will lock neater. So you'll have the baby hairs. Your hair will be laid down. You'll have it parted out. You'll have less fuzz. That's essentially what it is. But it has nothing to do with actually causing it to lock faster. And so I realized that what mattered more to me was having a clean scalp versus, not having fuzzy hair. I just felt like it went against the process to not embrace the fuzz. And I do believe that's part of our journey as a people, is that we still struggle with internalized racism, struggle with not accepting our natural texture. And the kinkier your hair is, the more coily your hair is, the fuzzier it's going to be, and it's not going to lay flat. The baby hairs are not going to be laying. They're going to be standing at a salute. That's just what it is. So when I realized that my hair would actually lock faster by washing it regularly, then I just did that. So all I used for the year and some change that I was freeforming was I just used soap and water. I put absolutely no product in my hair. The soap that I used was black soap for the first 6 months, and then after that I started using Head and Shoulders eucalyptus shampoo. The black soap I liked initially because it deposited and also moisturizes. It doesn't strip the hair like typical shampoos do. So it was very gentle during the locking process. I washed my hair every day for the entire year, and my hair locked within a month. So, and what was nice about freeforming is that each individual lock took on its own personality. So like I remember one of my locks looked like a gun because it was kind of out like this. And I was like, oh, that is so cool. And then another one of my locks was like a peace sign. And then it came out like that. So they were just took on all different sort of shapes and sizes. And it just became really cool. Like you embrace the personality of the different parts of your hair. So that was a positive. The negative was that I dealt with some microaggressions within my community. So it wasn't even just like, the dominant group, had something to say about it. It wasn't that. It was in my community that I dealt with some comments that I considered to be rude. So like, for example, someone who didn't know me more than once will come up to me and say, hey, when are you going to get your hair retwisted? When are you going to get your hair done? And it's like, excuse me, my hair is done. It's finished. It woke up finished. So it's like, what are you talking about? And I just was so taken aback by the fact that people felt so comfortable to even come up to me and make that question statement. So it was offensive. And I noticed that the population of men that would pay attention to me stopped. And so I started to feel invisible when I was freeforming, especially as my hair began to really grow out like trees and, come out. And actually it was cool looking. When I look back, I didn't even appreciate it as much as I should have in that season. But I felt invisible. And I have a very strong sense of self. I have a strong identity. However, I did find that there were times I had to really encourage myself because I did not see anyone that matched my reflection. I did not see any woman that was freeforming at all in my community. I barely saw men that were freeforming. In fact, the only men that I saw freeforming was at my job, and where I worked at the time, I was working at a jail, providing mental health services. So the only freeformers I saw were those that were incarcerated, which is fine. You got to do what you got to do, but I just thought that was interesting. And when I just began to see the little representation when it came to freeforming and, some of the microaggressive comments that I received, it actually encouraged me to continue to want to grow my hair out because I felt like I was being allowing the natural process of my hair. It was defiant. It's unfortunate that it's perceived as defiance, but I'm okay with that. I'm okay with there are times that you're going to have to go against the culture. In fact, I find that to be healthy and whole, you have to go against the cultural norms of the day. Every generation has cultural norms that are not healthy. Every generation does, and this generation is no different. And so you have to identify your version of health. What works for you? What feels good? What provides peace? And, provides a strong base for yourself, a groundedness, that's going to look different for everyone. And so I was on that journey when I was freeforming. And so yes, so there were times I did not feel as aesthetically pretty. I knew that I was pretty, and I also know that internal prettiness, beauty is really it's internal. It's not external ultimately. And I know this. I think we all know this, but it's still hard to not to look in the mirror and not feel like you're your best self. But I had to learn that with the natural styles, your version of beauty is going to change because it goes against the standard. So that part was interesting. And I was up for the challenge. I was up for it. Um, I remember one time I was at work, and one of the it's kind of it's funny now looking back on it, but one of the men that was incarcerated, someone locked up, he yells out from one of the rooms. He's like, "Hey, how do you get your hair like that?" And I was like, "Oh, just soap and water." And he was like, "It looks a mess." I couldn't believe I was so taken aback by that. And I mean, one would say, why are you offended by someone who's locked up? But that's not the point. That's not the point. I felt a little sucker punch with that, that statement. And I just said, that's not nice. And then I kept moving on, doing my work. And then moments later, he came to the door and he poked his head out and he said, "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that." And, I accepted the apology. But I mean, so it's funny now looking back, but it's just interesting how, that within our community, those are some of the experiences I had when it came to me freeforming. So yeah, so I ended up shaving my head, like I said, because I was doing too much manipulating. I had already shaved my sides and did like this living single Maxine bob. It was really cute. It was super cute. But I did a lot of manipulating of my hair to get it. So I would cut longer pieces off in the back and then bring it to the front and crochet it. Oh, by the way, I'm a cosmetologist. That I used to be a cosmetologist, so I know how to do my own hair. And in fact, in my opinion, I think a lot of people should know how to do basic grooming of themselves. It's great when you can go out and get a service from a professional, but I do encourage people to know how to do basic grooming. I think it's empowering. Anyway, I digress. So anyway, so I was doing a lot of manipulating to my hair, and I just I corrupted it. I fell into I allowed a little bit of corruption, because I started to care more about. I was okay with the fuzz, especially because I was very scalpy. I didn't have a lot of hair to begin with. And so part of what bothered me about a retwist is that it's a lot of scalp. And I know that it also weakens the base. And so I needed to have as much hair covering my scalp as possible to make it look fuller. So I was okay with the fuzz, but I started to care too much about the length, which is another downfall when it comes to us as a community, is that we're very length focused. And we, of course, can grow long, beautiful hair, but it can be hidden in the coils. And so that shrinkage is serious. And so we have to be okay with the fuzz and the shrinkage. It is what it is. So I fell into corruption, and I started to care about the length. And so I pulled them apart, those that were free forming, and it dropped, and I got the length, but I just started doing too much to it. So anyway, so I chose to shave my head because I just wanted to start over. And I also wanted to learn how to embrace my forehead, because I've done a lot of things over the years, especially when I had a relaxer, to cover my forehead. So I've been very self-conscious about that. And so in this season of my life, I'm really trying to focus on, part of the health is embracing how I was made. And I was made having a bit of a 5 head. What they say like that? A 5 head. My hairline goes back a little far. That's just how I was made. It's how I was created. And I embrace it. Do I need to have a buzz cut? Of course not. I can grow my hair out. I have before. But it's just, this is the season I'm in. It matches my lifestyle. Again, I love to wash my hair every day. In this instance, wash my scalp It's very refreshing. It's nice to do a fresh haircut every week. It's a great way to start the week. So yeah, so that's why I do. I actually cut my own hair. And the reason why I cut my own hair, aside from the fact that I believe if you have the skill to do it, why not do it for yourself? Is that when I was going to the barber shop, unfortunately, the places that I had gone, these are random places I found online in my area, they were not the cleanest. And because I am a cosmetologist, a licensed cosmetologist, I am aware of sanitizing and disinfecting and that sort of thing. And so I knew that they were not properly cleaning their tools. It was very clear. And so I thought, well, maybe it was just this one place. And so then I would go to another place, and it was the same thing. I know that not all barbers are that way. They practice cleaning their tools. And the same thing with cosmetologists. However, even in my industry as a cosmetologist, I witnessed many of my coworkers not really properly cleaning their tools. And if you're part of the general public, you don't really know about that type of stuff. So in good conscience, and and I don't really feel comfortable telling someone, hey, can you clean your tools? Because it's like, why should I have to tell you to clean? Like, you're supposed to do that. So the fact that I'm even needing to feel like I need to say that to someone, I just won't come back. It's just really that simple. So the other thing, about products. That's the other thing. The other reason why I went into Freeform, I noticed that a lot of people were having scalp conditions that had dreads. And I knew that it wasn't because of actual free-forming. It was because people were not properly washing their hair on a regular basis. Anytime you don't wash your hair on a regular basis, there's going to be buildup. And then as you continue to add more oils and not do a good enough scrub, that buildup adds to additional buildup, and then it can create scalp issues. So I truly believe that 90% of the scalp issues that people are having when it comes to having locks or dreads, whatever you want to call it, is from not properly washing their scalps, not having a consistently clean scalp. It is essential for you to have a clean scalp when you start your journey, in the middle of your journey, and when you finish your journey out. Just throughout your whole journey, your scalp should be very clean. But again, that comes at a cost. The cost is that you're going to have fuzz. It is what it is, and you have to be okay with that. To me, fuzz is not a big deal. It's not a deal breaker if it means that my scalp is clean. I had no buildup. I had no lint, because I also wasn't putting any product in my hair at all. Everyone's body chemistry is different, so you may have to use some type of moisturizer, but I find that you really don't have to use too much, because water is moisture. And so if you're washing your hair on a regular basis, it's getting moisturized. So that was my experience with having Freeform locks. I enjoyed it. If I do choose to grow my hair out again, I will definitely Freeform. So that's my story. I'll have some other stories to share with y'all as time goes on. And thank you for watching.